Corbyn.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. It's disappointing that the Prime Minister's statement didn't include any reference to the United Nations or a pathway to end the dreadful conflicts in Ukraine, in Gaza, in Sudan or the Democratic Republic of Congo. Clearly, his statement will have a massive effect on the poorest people in the poorest countries in the world through a cut in overseas aid budgets. But what effect will it have on the poorest people in this country, for example, over the two-child benefit cap, for example, the housing crisis that so many face? He says there's tough decisions coming up. What's going to be the effect on the poorest people in this country of the increase in defence spending?
Prime Minister.
Well, he says I didn't mention the UN. The UN Charter is at the heart of this, because Russia's in breach of it. Russia is an aggressor that has invaded another country and is occupying part of that country and will go further if they are encouraged down that line. And that is why we need to take these decisions. It is the first duty of government to keep our country safe and secure. It's a duty I take extremely importantly, and the poorest people in this country would be the first to suffer if the security and safety of our country was put in peril.
Mark Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Prime Minister is absolutely right to say that NATO is the bedrock on which we found our alliance. He's absolutely right to say that we can only achieve peace through strength. And he is absolutely right to cut the foreign development budget to pay for a £13.4 billion increase in defence spending. It's a difficult decision, but there is nothing more important than the defence and the security of the British people. Can I ask the Prime Minister what conversations he's had or hopes to have with our European allies about their defence spending and whether he hopes to see increases across the continent in the future?
Prime Minister.
I've had, as you may know, extensive discussions with all of our European allies, particularly intense over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and will continue to do so because we are right to say that Europe and the United Kingdom need to step up. We need to do that alongside our allies. That means capability, coordination and spending. And the best way, in my view, to do that is in a collegiate, collaborative way, working with our allies, and that's what I've been doing.
Bradley Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. In a world where our adversaries are intent on blunting our national security and prosperity, I welcome the Prime Minister's statements and thank him for his commitment to increasing defence spending. Can the Prime Minister update the House on what actions the government is taking to discourage BRICS nations and other emergent high-growth economies from advertently or inadvertently doing anything that would assist Russia in its pursuit of its invasion in Ukraine?
Prime Minister.
I think this is a really important issue. I'm so sorry. And it is important that, as well as sanctions, we bear down on those that are providing assistance to Russia, whether that's countries or whether it's individual businesses, and we shall continue to do so, working with allies.
Kevin Bonavere.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. My right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, is absolutely right to say this is a generational moment in this country's security. I pay tribute to this generation's armed forces and also all those who work in the defence sector, like in Stevenage, where they are refitting the Storm Shadows for use by Ukraine for their security and our security. Does my right honourable friend agree that an increase in defence spending that he has announced today, done properly, will also help the wider economy too?
Well, can I thank his constituents for working in Stevenage? It's such important work that is being done. And of course it's important that we make sure that this is measured in jobs and secure jobs across the country.
House.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last night I attended a concert in Bath Abbey, Stand Together, and the Ukrainian Deputy Ambassador was there, and he particularly praised the direct link that my Bath Council had formed with the city of Alexandria, as it forms such strong people-to-people contact and is enduring and provides direct support. What more can the government do to encourage other councils to form these direct links to Ukrainian communities?
Prime Minister.
Well, I'm very pleased to hear about that direct link. I think the people-to-people contact is really important. Both in relation to our appreciation and understanding of what's going on in Ukraine and, of course, to the resilience of the Ukrainians. I would support any such initiatives.
Joe Powell.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I warmly welcome the Prime Minister's statement. In particular, I know the Ukrainian forces on the front lines will be reassured today. Clearly, the aid spending decision will not have been taken lightly, but following reductions at US aid, it does mean tens of billions out of the global aid system, which could be exploited by Russia and China. So I wonder, will the Prime Minister consider a deadline for ending the accounting of asylum costs to the aid budget, which is currently 28% or £4.2 billion of money that should be used on aid spending overseas?
Minister.
Well, I thank him for raising this. It is a really difficult decision, and it is important that we make clear that we remain committed to the work we're doing in Gaza, in Ukraine and Sudan. And it is important, as he rightly says, that we get the asylum numbers down, the processing done, so that we can end the ridiculous use of money that should be for overseas aid on hotel bills in this country, which spiralled under the last government.
Ben Opsijekti.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. As a veteran, I welcome the move to 2.5%. It's a milestone on the right track to increasing defence spending to 3.0 and probably beyond, particularly given defence chiefs are reported to have requested 2.65%. Increasing defence spending and suggesting that British forces may be involved in a peacekeeping mission along with ongoing support to Ukraine is reassuring to see that we are not prepared to acquiesce to Russian belligerence. With that in mind, as the Prime Minister prepares to meet with President Trump, will he clarify with the President why the US sided with Russia and North Korea yesterday, voting against the European resolution that Russia should withdraw from Ukraine at the UN General Assembly?
Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his service as well? Our position on the UN resolution was clear from the way we voted yesterday. I think that sends a very powerful signal of where we stand, and that's with Ukraine.
Jacob Collier.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I welcome the Prime Minister's statement today and his commitment to 2.5% of defence spending, and also his continued engagement with our international partners. As a proud maritime nation and one that is facing threats from Russian interference with undersea cables and also incursion into our waters by the Shadow Fleet, does he agree that now is the time that we bolster our Royal Navy?
Prime Minister.
Yes, I do think it's important that we bolster across our forces. There are threats on land, there are threats in the air, and there are threats at sea and indeed under the sea. It's important that we can meet all of those threats.
Callum Miller.
Deputy Speaker, I welcome this important statement from the Prime Minister. Liberal Democrats support an increase in defence budget and the leadership in Europe that the Prime Minister has described. The Prime Minister spoke about the need for unity and a whole-society approach. He will have heard the concerns from across the House about the way in which he is proposing to fund this increase in the defence budget, and the deep concern that doing that will create opportunities for our adversaries, Russia and China, around the world. So will he undertake to meet with other parties in order to build the consensus behind the funding of 2.5 and then on to 3%, so that we can maintain the unity and the national purpose that he has so eloquently described?
Prime Minister.
Well, can I thank him for his support and the support of his party? I do think it's important at a moment like this. So far as the funding of the 2.5 is concerned, that has been set up out today. The commitment of the ambition to get to 3% is something that I think we need to talk about across this House. And of course, I will work with all parties on any issue of security and defence to our country.
Chris MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Prime Minister has delivered a very powerful statement today, and I know that his unwavering commitment to the defence of the realm will be greatly appreciated by my constituents in Stockton North. He mentioned industrial strategy. I wonder, does he agree with me that we need to start immediately to mobilise our steel, chemicals and shipbuilding industries, and working with regional groups like the Teesside Defence and Innovation Cluster to ensure that we build the capability that we need for our defence supply chains at home?
Prime Minister.
The industrial strategy and steel within it is vitally important, as he will know, the House will know. Steel and our ability to manufacture steel is vital to our security, and we must do everything to ensure that it is preserved into the future.
John Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Scotland wants to play its full part in this great national endeavour at this moment of peril, yet almost incredibly tomorrow the Scottish Parliament will discuss stripping defence companies of state funding. It's quite remarkable. It may not pass, of course, I certainly hope it won't, but so will the industrial defence strategy take into account what's happening in Scotland, where certain elements do seem to be siding with other national interests to protect our defence industry and this great country?
Prime Minister.
I think across the country it's important that we stand by our defence sector, enhance our defence sector, thank them for the work that they are doing, and obviously today's announcement will mean